You're welcome. It's time for the papers, and of course, I've got my. It's not a guest; it's actually a host, Mr. Mike Michigan. All right, Mr. Mike. Let's look at the dailies this morning. Very interesting headlines across all the national dailies for Tuesday. Here, let's start. So we have the Nation newspaper, and first big headline here: Labour suspends strike plan. Talks between governments, TUC, NLC on palliatives implementation for June 19. Now, let's talk about this, Mike. Happy to hear that news, first of all.
Very happy.
It's also making rounds that this would not have in any way been to the advantage of the economy. There's plenty of talks about the fact that if this had happened 10 years ago during the Jonathan regime, we would have settled into things. Everything would have normalized. And there are little aspects or little things that are happening that seem to be alleviating the suffering of people currently. But the planned strike, your view in any case, what did you think about?
Also, like you mentioned, let me just mention 10 years ago, it was almost like everybody talks about how subsidy is like a laceration, like an injury, you know, that we have to patch up or cover up. The more an injury stays, the worse it gets. So definitely, if it had been done earlier, we would have settled by now. No, that one is sure. You see, but then this strike would have been, especially when I heard that the distribution companies, that's talking about the electricity distribution companies, were going to be part of this strike.
I mean, how does that help how does that help the situation?
Because I think recently in some parts, electricity has been quite stable. Yesterday,
Better.
I went...
Not stable.
Okay, better. You know, yes, better. That's the word. Yesterday, I went to buy a fuel at this particular station around me. It was 530, and 5,000 naira, of course, didn't get to 10 liters. And 10 liters at times, if there's no power, it can take me a whole day. And I'm like, okay, so 5,000 a day
per day.
Per day. You know,
per
so
week if
and then
worked a week.
and then I went back. I didn't use the fuel because power was restored. And then I sat down and I thought about it, like, if these guys, that's talking about the power distribution companies, the discos, because they had said they will join the labor in solidarity for that strike. If these guys had gone, it would have been unbearable.
It's only increasing the suffering of the masses.
And so yesterday night, that meeting and all of that they had, the problem they had earlier was that they said they didn't want to talk to people who didn't have a role in the cabinet. They wanted to talk to people who were representatives of the government. So now we had the chief of staff. You understand? The former deputy speaker of the House of Rep, that's talking about Femi Gbanjamiamila, who was representing government or who was the head of the crew. And he came together and said, okay, they spoke about it and said, okay, let's suspend this. What they said was that June 19th or so, we'll come back to it, you know. But for now, the president is going to, you know, he said that we'll look at the minimum wage. We'll look at wage, but look, subsidy is not going to.
Okay. You want to take the Daily Trust newspaper? I think you have that there.
Okay, quite a few headlines there. Let's look at the Daily Trust here. The Daily Trust, of course, Labour suspends strike. That's the major one. But then amidst subsidy removal, jet fuel, cooking gas prices crash. I'm still trying to understand exactly how that has happened. But I've not bought cooking gas in maybe the last month. But it's about running up. So I knew that very soon I would get it. You know.
So personal experience. My wife actually made the calls around. You know, ladies, you all have these communication thing, and it actually is true. It's coming down. It hasn't relatively hit 6,500 naira like it was purported, but it seems that it's come down a level. So hopefully, as things goes on, it's going to. But one thing that really interests me in this, the headlines for the Daily Trust, is the fact that Kwara State, by the way, reduces workdays to three work days. Wow, not a bad measure.
It's not a bad measure, but I hope people don't take undue advantage of this particular gesture from the state government, because we're talking about the civil service here. There have been complaints at different times about how the civil service in some states and even in federal, how they don't work full days, how they just come and just show up, or they don't come at times, sign a register or something, you know. So they're talking about discipline in the civil service and actually working. But we are saying that, look, to cut down cost of transportation, cost of movement and all of that, if it means that if you're going to spend 3 days, you work well. If the other things, if you're going to do it off, you know, virtually and all of that, you do it. But it's a good one. It's a good one in some ways.
So
but
I hope a paradigm shift for our culture. If private organizations can also emulate the same thing, perhaps maybe everybody would.
They have to, because even, think about
run
it.
Away from it now.
There's an issue of saying that even, I think it was a church service, said, church service will be, the pastor said, my message will be short and straight to the point.
Exactly.
He said, Baba, it's 4 you're trying to conserve.
Everybody take leave. Everybody take leave.
To conserve.
All right, so let's move on now to the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. NLC TUC suspends strike as a tentative deal reached with FG to meet June 19 to agree on implementation framework. Alleged 190 million naira fraud, court discharges, acquits ex-HOS Orasaye And there's also subsidy removal. Kwara government reduces workdays like we've just discussed, only just from before. Bandits kill 2 farmers, abduct 30 others in Kaduna. We were talking with Mr. Adibdayo yesterday regarding the what the current dispensation would have for security.
For security.
Ongoing. We haven't heard much recently.
So we saw the president, I think it was yesterday, meeting with the Joint Security Council. I don't know the exact name and all of that, but he went to the center, yes, the coordinating center for that one. And, the president was there. And he understands how important, taking the case of security is. But one thing you have to understand is that, look, as much as federal government is doing their own, a lot of responsibility also is on the state governments. Because, I mean, we have 3 tiers of government, you understand. For security to be optimal, you need to have information pass across. Just even local governments, the villages, some of them know these people doing these things.
Yeah.
Are you reporting? Is it because the person, you know the person? Are you passing it across to the required quarters? You understand? Something happens in the village, what is the local government? And then what is the state government that's at that point doing? I know people have agitated for state policing.
Good, exactly.
I know. And yes, I feel like it would really do help.
Any concerns? Do you think any concerns regarding the situation right now, increasing crime?
Is that an increase per se?
What kind of crime exactly?
Exactly.
Because now things are changing. It might not be monetary crimes, but the kind of crime that we might have might be very different. Who need food? I might not be
exactly. So it might be a case of
stealing a tuber of yam.
And there's one particular headline there that spoke about demolition in Kano, and also there's a demolition in Abuja. I think it was
that's ongoing.
UTC and all of that. And I know 1 or 2 people who have issues like their stuffs were in there, their machine, and even jobs of people, and the place they came to demolish them. I don't know if that's the best.
Tell you what
thing
we're going
at
to do
this
on
point.
that one. Yeah, exactly. We'll bring more information on that because I think it's something that's currently ongoing and it's hot on the lips of people, especially in Abuja, as their assets are being destroyed in these measures. But thank you very much for sticking with us. There are more headlines that we couldn't touch on. We only have such a short time. But if you find any that you'd like to talk about, please do use the hashtag WakeUpNigeria on TVC. We'd love to hear from you.